Great. Welcome to everybody. This session is for the C pointers, array, and strings. This session also will be recorded, so later people who want to view the record, they can watch and follow through the examples we give here. And there is a little change about also the YouTube channel. According to a mentor, we cannot take recording of the LX dashboard or LX related things and put them online for the public view. So we made changes on there. What we're going to do now is to do sessions not specific to LX exercise or task, but at the end of each session, we're going to pause the recording and do one or more tasks on the LX dashboard. This part would not be recorded, but the first sections where there's nothing related to LX, we're going to record those things and make them available on YouTube. Okay. Um, okay, I'm going to meet. Great. So here we have the Visual Studio Code editor. So everything we're going to do today will be, we'll get it done here. And the most part, we're also going to see how to structure our files. It will be much more easier to have just a view. Let's start. What are pointers? And these are the things we're going to discuss. Pointer syntax. We're going to look at assignment of addresses to pointers. So assigning addresses to pointers. Get value of things pointed by a pointer. And also, we're going to see how to change values pointed by a pointer. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to create a file called main.c. This is where all the demonstrations and code samples will be written. Here we have our main functions. The main function is a special function. It is the entry point of your program. Any executable program should contain one main function. This is mandatory, but you can create custom functions, but these cannot be used as an entry point because the compiler consider the main function is the entry point by default for your program. It's where your program starts running. What are pointers? Pointers are simply variables as any other variables. This is something we have to bear in mind. A pointer is a simple variable that store data, but this data has type. For example, we can have something like an integer variables, like a, for example, a, or my age, a variable called age with a data type of int. A pointer also is a variable with a data type, but the types or the set of data the pointers take its value from are the addresses of other variables. So for example, we can create a pointer like I'm going to call it pointer to age memory address. That's a very long variable, but we're going to short it like that. So this is a variable called page. This is a pointer to the age address variable, address, memory address. The type is int, then start. The asterisk here means that these variables is a pointer. So these variables aim to store addresses of other variables, the address, the memory address. So what's the difference between a simple variable like that and a pointer and a variable like this one? I don't see any difference between this and this apart from the kind of data they store. They only store different data types. This one, the age, store integer value types, and the page is a variable that store addresses, memory addresses for variables who are integer data types. So they are all both variables, only the set of data they can store are different. Very important, a pointer is a variable as any other variable. Only the type of data they store can be different. So let's draw something very simple here. I'm going to find the one node here. Okay. We are going to share all this the screen. Um, so here we have, can you see the screen? Someone can
Yes, we
confirm.
can.
Okay, so now
Yes.
we are here. We're going to draw uh, something that represent the memory of our computer. It will be a simple drawing. Let's say we have something like that. And we also have another part like that.
Um, Mr. Mohammed,
Yes.
please, what platform are you using to create this?
We're going to get back to those things, but I think we should focus on the learning for the moment. Then I will send you, you can ask me on the group, then we will answer the tools we're using
Is
for
it
the
is
demos.
it okay? Is it part of the ALS project?
Yeah, here we're talking about the pointers and arrays, and we're showing how pointers are how variables are presented in the memory of your computer, and how uh, all how variables are stored and what are addresses, what are variables, and how addresses are assigned. It's a very important concept to understand because pointers are all about getting access to memory addresses and change values stored in those addresses. So here I'm just designing something, but I'm going to explain it. Let's say these represent these each of these rectangles a represent a position in the memory of our computer, starting from the first one to the bottom one. The right side is where the values are stored, the the red area, and the left side is where the addresses of that data is stored. For example, we can have an address like a random address like that, and we also have something like that, 9, and we have um, here 16, great, 600, 600 here too, and that's it. So this is our computer memory, and we have addresses 655, 657, 655, 58, 659, and 660. And the values stored in each of these address are for the address 655, we have a value called the value 10, the integer value 10 is stored. And for 657, the integer value um, 2 is stored. For the address 658, the value 4 is stored. And for the address 659, we have something like 100 stored in there. And for the memory address 660, we have the value something like 10 or 9 stored in there. So this is the addresses, how the memory is kind of laid out. But now each of these memory positions are labeled. The labels are the name of the variable. So we're going to call this is our variable, for example, age. And here, this is our variable weights. This is the memory location for the variable um, I'm going to call it like 14. And here, this one will be called something like degree. And this variable will be called pointer to age. So the last one, all these are memory locations. Each memory location has an address and a value. The address is what we can use to look for the value in the memory location. If we say we want to know the value at the memory location 655, the value will be 10. And the variable that represent that memory location is called age. The same for the variable weight, 14 degree. For the last variable, I call it's called pH, meaning that it will store the address for another variable. So instead of storing something like 9, it will store the address of the age variable, let's say 655. pH is a variable that stores a value, and its address is 660, but its value is the address of another variable. I'm going to draw an arrow for you to see. Let's change the color here. Something like green, I think. Okay. Uh, so you see that age, pH is a pointer. We say it's a pointer because its value, it takes the value from the address, from the memory addresses of other variables. But apart from that, it's a simple variable. Now let's go back in the text editor to see how we can use this concept. If any question, we can enter, people can ask in the chat and interrupt the session. So here we have the age variable integer, and I'm going to set it to something like 10 is equal to 10. And let's go back in and see, yes, the value of the variables is 10. So in the memory location, we have for value 10, and the address is 655. Now we created another variable called pH, which is a variable that should point to the memory location of another variable. So here we're going to set its value to the address of the variable, the address of the memory location labeled age. The memory location labeled age is, let's look in the here. The memory location labeled age is 655. So the value of pH will be 655 because it is the data type is a pointer data type. We use the ampersand sign to tell the compiler we want to get access to the address. We want to assign the address of the variable, the address of the memory location labeled age, and assign it to the variable called pH. Next, what can we do? We're going to print the value of age, and we're going to print the value using the pointer. So let's say you see printf value of a. This is age, and we're going to also display the value of b, pH, which is another variable, value of pH. Since the data type stored in the pH is a pointer data type, we have to use another format, the p format. Then we say pH, the value stored in pH variables. Now let's compile this and see what will display. GCC, then the name of the main file, then the output will be main. Oops. The printf function, we should include the stdio library in order to access the printf function. So include stdio.h. Great. So now we have our executable. Since we are on a Windows machine, the name of the executable, the extension will be a .x. Now we can uh, execute by typing the command main.xx. So here we see the value of A is 10 and the value of P is 0061 FA 14. So this is the address of the memory location. Um, we assign it to the variable ph, and here it's displayed in hexadecimal notation. So that's one thing. We can also change the way we display the text. For example, let's say um, we're going to say something like printf and say, okay, value stored at address, value stored at address, the address is, then we tell the value. So the address will be the address of the memory location labeled age, then the value of the memory location labeled age. So here we have three things. We have the memory location, we have the label for the memory location. So the label is age. We can use the label to either specify the value of the memory location or the address of the memory location. So by typing ampersand age, we say we want to know the address of the memory location labeled age. By typing age without the ampersand, we're telling the compiler we want to know the value of the memory location labeled age. Someone asked the question, and we're getting back to that right now. So let's compile this code again. It will be gcc, then main.c, and also the output file will be named main. Great. So if you look in the Explorer on the right side in the editor, you see that we have a main.x file created. This file is the program, it is the executable. On Windows, we have the extension .x, but on Linux machine, the extension is not important, so it won't appear. But in our case, this is the executable. It is a binary file. Let's execute the main.exe. And here we have that value stored at address 00060 FE14 is 10. Let's make the message more precise and is labeled age. Let's compile the code again. I'm going to clear the terminal and run the compiler and execute again. So here we have value stored at memory location address 000 is 10, and the location is labeled age. So the label of the memory location is age. We have to understand that very, very well. And the same address can be stored in another variable the same way you can store the variable, you can assign the value of the variable to another variable. So don't let the vocabulary confuse you, because when you say pointer, 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 people get confused. But pointers are just variables that store data, and that's it. So I'm going to comment the things about a pointer first. I'm going to delete it. I want you to see something. There is two ways of displaying the value of a variable. The first way is the first way is using the variable name itself, like that. And the second way is using the address of the memory location of the variable. So here we can say, we tell the compiler, hey, compiler, I want you to get access to the memory location labeled age. So here, the ampersand age is the address of the memory location labeled age. But instead of the address itself, I want you to display the value from that address. So we add a start and we save the address in the parentheses, then we add a start. So you will see these two notations, these two way of displaying the value is equivalent. Let's compile the code again. Okay, then execute it. So value is 10, value is 10. Yeah. So someone asked a question about variable name and all the things about label. Uh, I don't want to use the name variable in this case because I want to make things very separate. A variable is a is we can simply see it that way. If we have a variable named age, the age variable is the name of the memory locations, is a memory represents something. It represents a memory location associated with a value. So when I say labeled, um, it's referencing actually to the variable name. Okay, so here we have two different notation using the variable name to display the value. So when you type in age, you only that refer to the value. Yes. So if you type age, it refers to the value of the memory location. But if you type ampersand, it refers to the address of the variable. So when you have the address of a variable or of a memory location, you can how to get access to its value. You already know the address. You can then ask the computer to look for the value. So you can enclose the address between parentheses and add a start sign. This is the correct syntax. The syntax tells, hey, compiler, you have the address now. I want you to look for the value at that address, and it will display you the value. So pointers are not magic. There's some only addresses. Okay. So I'm going to name these things int address again. I'm kind of repeating myself because I want to explain the same concept in different ways so we can understand it very well. So you can either display the value of a memory address of a memory location by using the variable name, or you can display the value by using the address. So by adding a start sign in front of the address value, you will see it will display you the value. So you can either use the address or the variable name to view the value from a memory location. So I guess this is all for the explanations. I hope people understand something about this. Now let's move on the next thing, assigning addresses to pointers. We already did that. Here, this is how we assign address of a memory location named age to the variable address. Get the value of things pointed by a pointer. So this here, the address, we have the address. And if we want to look into the value stored in that memory address, we just have to add the start sign in front of the name of the variable address. Now, how are we going to do to change the value of the memory location? Okay, so there is two ways of changing the value of the memory locations called the 655 of the memory location, which has address 655. We can use the address to change the value stored here, or we can use the, the memory location name, which is the variable name, to change the value here. So how do we do that? For example, when you type in age, we assign 12 to age. So here we used the variable name to assign a value to age. So to the memory locations represented by age. But we can also use the address to do the same thing. So I can say I add start, then the address, then the value I want